Um, no, I don't. I think Arteta's clearly grasping more power, and I think that he's pretty consistent in what he looks for and what he wants. I don't think he's really changed except for wanting to be, because even when we were playing more attacking, he still valued buying defenders, so I think he's pretty consistent in what he wants. And so if he gets more power, it's going to be more of the same. I think he is a little bit backed into a corner now. And so he will get attackers, like he will get at least one or two.
You got no
But
choice, in my opinion.
yeah, but listen, I am not a big fan of the manager having all the power. I didn't actually want him upgraded to manager. So this all just reeks of a huge mistake, and him hiring the sporting director and doing that kind of stuff. Like, we are going into Wenger without Wenger. Because the thing about
Without the
Arsene,
credentials as well, really.
yeah, the thing about Arsene, even though he kind of lost it towards the end, is his talent ID was impeccable. I don't think Arteta's talent ID is impeccable. I think it's very questionable. And so if he's picking all the players and he's picking players without that bastard mentality, and he wants to go out there and get more left backs that, there's red flags on them or more DMs or whatever.
We know we'll sign a goalie in a couple of seasons. Big up Ryo, but we've seen this.
Well, we're still talking about the Juan Garcia goalkeeper. And I saw people, yesterday, like, oh, Arsenal fans were bitching about, wanting to get this Juan Garcia, but he's the highest rated goalkeeper in La Liga. They don't know anything. And I'm like, are we going to pretend like that's the reason why people didn't want him? We spent the whole window chasing after an expensive number two. That's the problem, is
Where,
Arsenal are
like you
chasing
said,
after
we're
things
trying
that
to
don't
save
matter.
money as well.
Yeah, it's like, come on. We had money in the summer, but we chose to spend it on a left back, and we were also chasing an expensive number two. And that's kind of
And we
the
signed Moreno.
yeah, exactly. Another player that the reports just came out like yesterday that Arteta had to convince them to bring him in because they weren't convinced that at his age and the money that we were going to spend that we would get, the value for money. And Arteta doesn't even use Marino in big games. So it's, yeah, if you think we're going in the right direction, fine. But I personally do, do not love this. It
I'm
banks on
conflicted.
Arteta
Yes, I'm
having a
conflicted.
much better talent ID.
I
So,
don't know. Like,
yeah.
is it fair to say? It just like on brand with everything at Arsenal. It's a bit mixed. Like, is this talent
No,
ID
I
really
said
that
it's
bad?
it's suspect. It's not
Yeah, is it
poor
really that
and it's
suspect?
not bad. I think it is suspect. I
In
do.
an attacking sense, million
Yeah,
percent
I
is
think it's
suspect.
suspect. I really do. And I think the insistence on players with clear red flags or, whatever, I think is the problem.
What's
That you
these
have
red
to,
flags for those who are listening that might not
so
understand the angle you're getting at?
red flag would be you're in a position where you desperately need a striker or a winger and you prioritize somebody like Calafiori, who the team around you is telling you that he has clear injury problems. You say, I don't care about that. This is the player that I want. And we barely even seen him this season
It's
because
true.
he's
And
been
is he
injured.
necessarily first choice as much as I like him if everyone's fit, especially with Lewis Kelly holding it down?
Yeah. So when I say that it's suspect, I mean that you could probably go through the players that we've brought in since Arteta has been here and go about 60-40, maybe 60 have been successful, 40 have not been, you know, or there's still questions around
Who's
some.
he brought in an attacking sense that's been a success as well? Like,
I mean, he
that
hasn't
keyword
really
success,
bought
probably
in
Trossard,
anybody.
if
He's brought
any.
Trossard and Jesus. That's
Yeah,
it.
and Kai.
And not even Kai. Kai was brought in for midfield. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. Like,
yeah,
people
he
are
failed
adding
upwards with
him
that.
in, and I'm like, you can't even add him in because he failed as a left center mid. So that's a
Yeah,
failed signing, just right off rip.
I
So
hear that.
yeah, that's all I'm saying. I mean,
Probably
he
Trossard, if
inherited
anything.
Saka, he inherited Martinelli, and he inherited Saliba. Two of those players are best players in the team, and he
Probably only
inherited
Odegaard.
with them. And I mean, he got in Odegaard, but
That's it.
that's
Based
it.
on what you said, I think that's it.
Yeah. So when I'm
Yeah.
saying that he has a suspect talent ID, I'm not saying that he's gotten everything wrong. I'm saying that when you're a team that doesn't have owners that are just going to continue to spend. And when you're in a position where like they want to get to a self-sustaining model, you have to get those right more often than we are. I don't think we're in a position where we can get so much wrong because we're not just going to have a
Small margins.
65 million pound player on the bench. They're going to make sure that that player plays because he's our highest earner. We can't just bury Kai. That's not going to happen. And when we get ready to sell him, we'll struggle. There won't be an Arsenal dying to spend 65 million on him.
Chelsea couldn't believe their luck where that was concerned, man.
Yeah.
They only lost 5 million in him, and they'll probably say, you know what, you scored in the champs for us. Fair play. What do you make of this comment? Shout out everybody commenting, people. We'll get through your comments in a sec. Don't forget to smash the like button, and we're going to Jesse's channel after. His talent ID isn't poor, it's who the club gets over the line. Now, where I feel on that, I feel that's a cop-out personally,
Same.
because I feel when things go left, it's never Arteta's fault. When
Yep.
it goes right, it's all his. But
Yep.
what's your thoughts?
Exactly. You said it. You exactly said it. Somebody told me this the other day. They were like, how can you say that, he's getting it wrong when he never gets his targets? And I'm like, these are his targets. Oh, well, 80% of the players that are in the team are not his number one choice. Are you guys joking? Raya is his number one choice. In fact, we had another goalkeeper and he binned him off like very, very harshly to get in his number one choice. So Raya, number one choice. Ben White, number one choice. Timber, number one choice. Right there, that's 3 number one choices. Rice, number one choice. Havertz, number one choice. Odegaard, number one choice. The only players that I can think of off the top of my head that are not his number one choices are like Jesus, because I think he wanted like Vlahovic maybe and ended up getting Jesus. Zinchenko, who doesn't play. He doesn't even play, guys.
Even that, I reckon he wanted Dini,
his number one choice. He basically only got that, got him this summer. So this whole, like Viggs is saying, Sterling, Jesus, think about the ratio to the players that I said are his number one choice to the ones that aren't. Again, I said it's not like everything is bad, but the idea that he doesn't have like 80% of the players that we have are not his options when we know that they are, it's just excuses, guys. Like, it's just excuses.
Because you can't big up the guy and then not hold him accountable. And this is what I mean. When it comes to discussing Arsenal, it's either everything Mikel Arteta does turns water to wine. I do think there's some people that Arteta could literally shit in his hands and clap and they'll say it's amazing. And then there's people that everything's terrible. Now, if you think Arteta is the guy or not the guy and you're providing balance, I'm all for that. But this is where I don't think there's a lot of honesty. And really and truly, it's all speculative because none of us are at Arsenal seeing what's going on in that regards. And again, when I look at, I'm not criticizing Arteta because I do think, just for this, because I do think if we had some more clinical players, we would still score. But I think a lot of the talking points will be there. Obviously, just new signings would be good, but is it a simple case of you sign whatever striker, you sign whatever left winger, and everything's great? Or is there some coaching that Mikel Arteta has to address?
There's definitely coaching, because there's obviously a school of thought too that if you just bring in the strikers, like, are they going to get the chances? If you bring in another winger, will they suffer some of the same fates that like Martinelli has suffered? So obviously he has to I think one of his biggest failings is his attackers. He doesn't like prop them up to do their best, like whatever they're best at doesn't come forward. And so I think Arteta needs to recruit players that can do the things that he wants if he's not going to change his system. But if he's going to recruit players that don't suit the system, then the system needs to change so that he can get the best out of them. Not everybody is a Saka. Saka is a unicorn, but I think sometimes he treats the other attackers like they're Saka, where it's like, well, if I need to do touchline, do touchline. If you need to come central, do central. Not everybody is a Saka. Saka is a...
As we're seeing, yeah. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah, most players need the system to suit their strengths. And right now, we see somebody like Trossard playing on the touch line. That doesn't suit him. It doesn't really suit Martinelli either. Jesus really struggled when we switched the system. He couldn't drop deep. Kai Havertz struggles in general, so he needs to buy attackers that can do the things that he wants them to do. And if he can't find those, I think he needs to modify and be just a little bit more flexible. But maybe that's why he's so obsessed with certain profiles and certain players, because he's not going to change his system. Because the fact that we continuously talk about Nico Williams and like there's no one else on the planet, then you got to get
Trust.
him. You got to get him because you
Oh, who
can't.
would we get though, Jess? Man, there's no one available though. You know this.
I know. I know. It's just there's a lot I would change about our recruitment and the way that we go about transfers, but it's
Like
their
what?
world and I'm just living in it.
Amen. But like what though? Because you said it humorous.
Have more than one target and be flexible enough to move down the list. It really should not be Nico Williams or bust or Nico Williams or Sterling. We should have went for the Neto, type signing. There's other players that we could have went for. The fact that we're not doing, we have nothing else other than it's like, well, Sesko or die, Nico Williams or die. Like,
I
what?
agree.
Why don't we have more than one? So, yeah, that's definitely something I would change. And then I'd also stop just doing the really expensive players in the Premier League. I'd love for us to be able to trust our scouts and trust our process enough where we could get players from outside of the league. Like, because Arsenal fans don't even trust outside the league anymore. I think they feel like they've been burnt, where they're like, nah, I need to see this player in the Prem because they're actually trying to convince themselves that Sesko is going to be some bum. And I'm like, watch football with your eyeballs.
It can't be hard to improve what we got at the moment, man. I don't know
Yeah.
if Lukonga was mismanaged personally to go to this comment. I just think I wanted Lukonga. It just went wrong. I don't think he had the mentality. We've all seen the
Well,
all or nothing.
let's think about this like logically with Lukonga, because that's what people will bring up. Well, what about Fabio? He didn't work out from another league. What about Lukonga? Those players, think about the amount of minutes that they had coming to us and how much first team experience they had. Also, the Belgium league, the Portuguese league, and the league that Tavares came from, which I think is also the Portuguese league, none of those are top 5 leagues. The
Probably bought them
Bundesliga,
a couple of years
League
too early, man.
those La Liga, those are all top 5 leagues. Not only that, some of these players we're talking about play in Europe and or the Champions League. So there's enough behind it where you can see multiple seasons in a top 5 league, playing in multiple competitions, where you could probably think that they'd be a little bit closer to what we need than a Sambi. Sambi was a Hail Mary.